Right, so having had the clutch apart now, what I'm going to do, I've cleaned all the plates, give them a good wiping over. I've also doused them in oil. I'm going to put the clutch back together and then put it back into the bike. Now at this point I haven't quite got the special tool. I've got a socket that I think I can make into it, and we'll have a look at that perhaps a little bit later. Well, it's quite easy to put the clutch back together. You've got the middle bit, the clutch centre, and basically you have a friction plate and then a driven plate, and you just put them back in one at a time. The hardest thing is always going to be getting it back into the basket in the bike, because you've got to get all these parts to line up. It's always good to do a bit of a check, just in case you lost concentration part way through, to make sure it's interspersed all correctly. Yeah, which I'm sure it is. These we can just line up again nicely. I think that's looking good to go. Importantly, you do need to be careful with the oils that you use with wet clutches. I'm using a classic 2050 to be honest, and I've doused them in that. But if you use a modern synthetic, you can end up where the oil actually won't let the clutch actually ever bind up, and it'll just keep running. So although you might feel tempted to use more modern oils, you've really got to make sure that it's one that's suitable for a wet clutch. Right, final bit. Oops. Yeah, put it in the wrong way. No, put it in the right way. Make sure it lines up. And have this little bit to go on. Ready to go back in the bike. Right, I haven't got a special tool, so what I'm looking at doing is following Dino on Hackaweek's idea of cutting down a socket. He used the 7/8, I've not got one, I'm going to use a 22. It does appear that pretty much the points of the stars will actually go into the centre, so I think that this could be quite successful. We'll see how I go on. And it still needs a little bit of filing and fettling, but I've got the bits in the right place. I'm pretty sure that'll work once I've cleaned it up. So thanks Dino, it was a great idea. Well, in no way is it perfect. However, that will definitely work, and it's a hell of a lot better than taking a swipe at it with a hammer. Can finish off putting in the clutch now. Right then, let's see how we can torque up the clutch nut using my newly made special tool. There's also a special tool to hold the clutch from turning. I'm going to use this absolutely monstrous tool that I never thought I'd ever need, and I use it a lot these days. So let me just have a quick look. I've set the torque wrench to 42 Newton meters. The setting for this is between 32 and 36 feet-pound, 42 to 48 Newton meters. I think that works out to, according to Google. Go at the bottom end. That way, if you have to nip it up to get one of the tabs to fit, at least you can. Let's see what happens. So, get the tool in. Hold it in place. Give up for a few minutes. It would be nice to just have another pair of hands, but while I haven't, I'm sure I'll be able to get this sorted. So, in with that. In with that. And here we go. So I'm going to have to use my chest to push this in. Maybe not. After a bit of a struggle, did manage to get it torqued up in the end. It's always a struggle when you're trying to get video and what you're actually doing to come together, and especially if you've not got somebody else to hold the camera. Right, the final thing I need to do here is just pull that tab down. Right, and we'll put that into place so that we can be sure that it won't come undone. I think that'll do the job. Next we need to put the release bearing back in. When I say release bearing, it's actually a whole mechanism. Springs on first. This might be a bit fiddly, I'm not sure yet, not done this one before. So, let's see, it's bound to go like that. So, let's get let's see if we can. Nope, we're not got it there yet. Press it a bit further in. No, still not succeeding. These can be a bit fiddly. What you need to do is just try and get it started while you're taking up the pressure. And then just run it in a few threads. Okie doke. I suspect these might go in a bit easier. So you just need to seat these down first of all. And once you've done that, there's a torque setting for them. I'll have to go and look it up. Really should have got the electric screwdriver out, shouldn't I? Right, that seems to be them nipping up now. Nearly there. Sounded like something seated then. Either that or broke. 9 feet-pounds, it works out to 12 Newton meters. So I've set it to that. And I'll just whip them up. I haven't tightened this one up quite enough. Right, well, the observant amongst you might have noticed when I was torquing them up, one of them just didn't seem right. So I stopped. And when I've pulled it back out, what I found, it was wasting there, and I probably stopped just before it snapped. Didn't realise, and I hadn't spotted this, this is a different type of bolt to the ones that were obviously original ones. I hadn't spotted someone had swapped one in. I suspect it's not of sufficient tensile strength. Well, not to worry, I've got myself a nice 8.81. Nice, same size, so I'll have to replace that one, and I might think about trying to get an original at some point. Right, and now I've got it in, just to show. There we go. Disappointing the way that bolt was giving up. And just imagine if it had pulled off, I'd have had to have all that out again. So maybe I need to have just a little bit more attention to detail. But to be fair, even if I'd have spotted it was different, I'd have probably still thought it was okay. The person who fixed it last time thought that. Next, I'm going to put the case back on. I've had a good look and clean of the clutch release mechanism. It's basically 3 balls that get displaced as you pull the clutch lever and press in. Adjustments, because that presses into the middle there. When you pull the lever, it presses it in, which then loosens the grip on the clutch plates. So I'll clean up the gasket faces, perhaps a little bit of sealant on them, put them in, and then torque down the screws. Stopped. Well, if you actually look, I haven't put that lever on correctly. You have to think that it's got to be so that it'll go like that. So what I'm hoping to do is pop the case out, twizzle it round, pop it back on. That looks good to me. Push it back on. Right, back to twiddling screws. So now I'm going to torque these up. I'll do it in a crisscross pattern so that hopefully it goes on nice and even. Alright, just finishing that off. Now, next thing is, let's put the lever back on and then we'll get the clutch cable sorted. Clutch actuation arm, so that goes on. It goes inwards with the part where you're going to put the nipple off the clutch cable through, facing outwards, as a washer. And it has a screw, a nut, that also acts as the lock nut once you've adjusted the clutch. And the adjustment on this is we screw in the actuator until it bottoms and then take it 1/4 of a turn back. Just nip that up. There we go. Ready to go. One more bit. There is a spring. Well, let me just see. It hooks through there. Can't quite see the hole. Yep, we're in. And goes around there. Eventually, we will get it round. There we are. When the cover's on, it butts up to that, so it can't come off. And all we need to do now is think about getting the cable. Right. I've got a new clutch cable. I followed the routing from the original. Goes under here in the engine. Through here. That hooks into there. They always seem to make these a little bit too big. You may just have to ease it down. Let's just have a look. Oh no, it's in. Right. So, we're ready to go with that. Once I get it on the cable, on the lever at the other end, we're ready to go. So I think I can leave that as it is now, and we're ready to rock and roll with sorting out the handlebars. That's the clutch back into my CB750 K0. Cleaned it all out, freed up the plates, we've put this back on, we've adjusted it, we've put a new cable on. It's looking good. Need to sort out the handlebars before I actually connect it to a lever at the other end. Next time I'm hoping I might be able to put the carbs back in, look at the oil, and then we'll be on to looking at the electrics. Maybe I'm just hanging back on them a little bit at the moment, but I'm sure it'll be okay.